harm reduction movement will be more like in Holland. We reached a point where not much more can be done in the sense of harm reduction, but in many countries.
And there's also not so much opposition, to it.
Well, it's the official. No, there's no. Really, there's. It's not. That is not a problem. Well, it's not. There was a lot of discussion about the heroin prescription. The religious parties were against this, but they had to accept it because there was a clear majority, and it's still, even with the new government, there is no majority for ending the heroin prescription. But the point that I want to make is that this is a medical thing. This is all in the context of treatment. And I think that the harm reduction, the developments will be that when it is treatment and when it is medicalized, then they will be successful. But harm reduction initiatives that are not clearly medical but more social, there I don't believe that much progress can be made the way it is now. Like the problems with the coffee shops in Holland and what they call the backdoor problem, that the growth and the distribution of cannabis to get it in the coffee shops, that's still totally illegal, and there is a lot of law enforcement going on against the growers and the dealers in the marijuana, whereas it is being sold freely at the front door. So, and because that is it's not medical, that is a social project, and there is the people keep to their prohibitionist ideas. That's one thing. There's one more thing that I would like to say for the coming period. Going back to Costa, I don't know who thought about this, but it's very clever the way he presents the last 10 years as if the UN drug control system now succeeded in containing the world drug problem. That is, it's very smart. And one interesting thing is that the Italian delegation, they never criticized the drugs chief. It was always an Italian for some reason. It's interesting if that could be investigated why this is always an Italian. It was Mr. Arlacchi, and he was really in a disgraceful position because of the bad management of the UNODC, but he was replaced by another Italian. Well, anyway, the Italian government criticized this statement of Costa about containing the drug problem. They said, first of all, you must realize that this was not the objective in 1998. The objectives were to significantly reduce. And at that time, nobody said, we are proud when in 2008 we can say that the levels of use and the levels of addiction are about the same as they are now. That was not the goal. And the second thing you can say about it, that even if it were true that there is a containment or a leveling out or a kind of a stabilization, that has nothing to do with the drug policy or with the repression. And therefore, you have to know that when a drug is introduced somewhere in a country, a new drug, then mostly the use spreads and gradually it grows, but then it reaches a level at which it remains more or less stable, and it fluctuates, but the nature of the national drug policy has very little influence on this. That is really what has come out of the research of the last 10, 20 years on this. And you can see it at the statistics of the Lisbon, the monitoring center of the European Union, Lisbon, with their yearly statistics. This is what is going on in Europe for a number of years already. So that has nothing to do with what the UN calls drug control. This would have happened anyway, and maybe it would have happened the increase in drug use all over the world would have been slower and more gradual without drug prohibition.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot know it, but that is what I think is probable. So it's important not to accept this quasi-explanation of what happened in the last years as if the UN contributed to the containment of the drug problem. It's simply not true. By continuing drug prohibition, they make the trade in drugs much more lucrative than it would ever be if it was regulated in a sensible way, and they helped it spread much more quickly than it would have been otherwise. That I'm glad that I could say this.
Yeah, I'm glad so as well. Well, two more questions. Well, the one thing that I found positive in the political declaration from 1998 was that the international, the United Nations have to be aware, the world has to be aware that the use, especially the abuse, okay, they don't distinguish between use and abuse, but the abuse of drugs is a result of poor economic situations in the world, and also the society which is changing, and especially the human relations with one another, and but something to be done on this side would be very positive, probably. But I don't think anything has been done from the standpoint of United Nations in direct relation to this statement.
No, and if, for instance, things that are happening in Brazil, where these poor neighborhoods around and in the big cities, in Sao Paulo, it is around the city more, but in Rio de Janeiro is built in a way that the favelas, where these poor quarters of town, are really in the city itself. And that the killings that are taking place there, and the violations of human rights that are going on constantly. The UNODC is not criticizing this. They accept it, and they may even talk with the Brazilians about things that are happening there without criticizing these things. So it is. I say it was okay to have that in the political declaration, but it remained hollow, I think.
Okay, Mr. Polak, since you're a psychiatrist, you've said that in the future you see probably just the better establishment, a more solid establishment of the medical aspect of using drugs, while not this on the social level. But what I'm interested in, you know, there's quite a number of people that have fears of psychiatry now, whether it is because they were in systems, in totalitarian systems where psychiatry was abused for political means, but also there's people like Thomas Schaas, which claim